Hey, what's going on, Game Leapers? This is Eeks, and in today's video, 3 most broken champions each role. And hopefully this video will cover all elos as well. So I'm not talking to any bronze or silver players or any master challenger players. I'm talking to everyone. These picks will work in every single elo, and they've proven to be statistically the best champs at the moment. And to be honest, in 12-17, because none of them really are getting touched up in terms of getting nerfed or their items or their runes, they're going to continue to be the powerhouses of the Rift. So make sure, guys, you stick around for the whole video. And if you want to master any of the champions we talk about or any of the roles we talk about, scroll down just a little bit and hit our GameLeap.com website links in the description and comment section, because our challenger players and coaches daily videos for our subscribers. These are made by the best to help you become the best. We break down gameplays, we give you champion courses and guides, so get that exclusive access to our library of content by signing up. And let's get into the 3 most broken for each role, and let's start by talking about the top lane. And coming in at number 3 is the only champion on this list actually getting buffed for 12-17, because she's already broken, this being Camille. So what's happening is the passive HP shield, this is increasing, so it's going from 17% to 20%, and also your E's hookshot damage is scaling more off your bonus attack damage. So as you start building more attack damage, your hookshot in the mid to late game is going to do more damage. I don't know why Ryder put this in the game, because Camille's mid to late game is insane anyway. It's not like she really needs any more help, and at the moment she's still doing very well in the top lane without these buffs. And of course, because your passive is getting buffed, this means that when you're trading with your opponent, it's going to be pretty much impossible to lose those trades. I'll just be a little bit careful at blind picking Camille, guys, because she does have some really hard counters in the top lane. Stuff like Poppy, stuff like Jax, Darius. These champions do very well, and of course you can't ban all of them, so do be a little bit careful blind picking her. But regardless, as a champion, Camille's going to be very, very good. But a champion even better than Camille, in fact, counters Camille, and is one of the champions I just mentioned, this being Darius. So Darius, ever since the durability meta hit the Rift in 12.10, he's been killing it. And one of the reasons why is just because he loves a tankier meta, because of his hemorrhage stacking, the Conqueror stacking. He loves extended fights and rarely loses them. Now, of course, you can decide to go Stride Break, or maybe Trinity Force is your mythic item. I'd highly recommend going Trinity Force if you have a lead in the early game. So if you're really snowballing, Trinity Force will kill the game off quicker. But if you're against some sort of champion that can kite you, so you might be against a ranged champion, you might be against a champion maybe with lots of dashes, let's say Stride Breaker and the slow, it's going to be really useful, because there's no other way you can stick to the enemy champion. Of course, you want to be running Flash and Ghost, so you actually do have some sort of stickiness. And with these 2 combat summoner spells, especially Ghost, which scales so well, it makes you such a strong 1v1er, which is why Darius is on this countdown for another patch. But he's beaten to the number 1 position, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, by Eclipse Aatrox. Ever since this became popular, the Eclipse build, Aatrox has just been absolutely killing it. I also think the sweet spot buff Riot gave Aatrox a few patches ago, so when you land your Qs and you actually hit your Q, so the sweet spot of it, you're going to be dealing more damage. For anyone who's actually good at Aatrox, this is a significant buff, because it really benefits those people with skill on the champion. And pair this with Eclipse, the lethality, the Omnivamp as well. Remember, Riot a couple of patches ago nerfed Aatrox's lifesteal and his Omnivamp, so the Omnivamp from Eclipse kind of makes up for it. So this is really nice. Just make sure you're running Ignite in those matchups against stuff like Darius and Camille. You can always run TP, but in the early to mid game with your Dirk, with your Eclipse, that's where you can really get the ball rolling. So Ignite is extremely powerful on Eclipse Aatrox. Now, heading into the jungle, who are the top 3 junglers for 12-17? I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't want to spend too long talking about these, because it makes me kind of depressed. And the first of these is Diana. And yes, Sunfire Aegis, Nash's Tooth, that's right, Diana. Even though Riot tried to nerf this, it's still the best build for her. It's so obnoxious to play against. Playing it honestly feels amazing, because you clear camps so quickly, and it's like you're impossible to kill while still dealing the most amount of damage in the game. So Diana is number 3. Now, number 2 on the countdown, a little more respect for this champion, this is Fiddlesticks. And because of those buffs to Fiddlesticks' Crowstorm base damage, the AP ratio, and also to his Q's fear duration, it's really pushed Fiddlesticks into just being broken. And that's proven to be the case in every single elo. Even in higher elos where you might think, oh, Fiddlesticks, you know, he just wants to full clear, he can get exploited by really good junglers. The champion is very hard to kill. Just make sure, guys, if you are playing Fiddlesticks, from level 6 onwards, you need your Crowstorm. That is what the champion is about, so do be a little bit careful about making plays around the map without your ultimate, and also just remember to try to use flanks and to avoid enemy vision. Don't just show on minion waves, don't just show in popular warning spots, go around the side of the team fights and attack the enemies from behind if possible. That's what the best Fiddlesticks players will do, but Fiddlesticks is the second best jungler for 12-17, but he's beaten to number 1 by a champion who got his attack range increased, and he can also decide where he ends up when he Qs, this being Master Yi. And those two changes, honestly, Master Yi is going to be the most broken champion until Riot do something about that, because it's made the champion beyond busted and so annoying to play against. I don't know if you guys have played against the new version of Master Yi, if you will, where he actually chooses where he ends up out of queuing, and his extra attack range as well is really underrated. Like, that buff was legit. Kind of the same thing that happened to Belveth. That's why she's still so good. But yes, Master Yi is the number 1 jungler, and that's in every single elo as well. Even in higher elos, he's banned a heck of a lot at the moment, just because there's very little counterplay to him. Now, heading to the mid lane, the 3 best mid laners for 12-17. Well, the first of these we haven't actually really mentioned for a while, this being Victor. And because the 2 best champions are just so broken, well, Victor, you could probably even replace him with someone like Akshar, maybe with Anivia, maybe even with Sylas. Even though Sylas is getting nerfed, we'll have to see like how bad those are. So if you guys have any recommendations for the 3rd best mid laner, let us know in the comment section. But for Victor, you can use the new Scorch, you can use First Strike as your keystone, you can use Airy, you can switch it up. And because in solo queue lots of people are going to be headbutting you, because range, well, it doesn't really exist for the most part, Victor loves that, because you can drop your gravity field, you can drop your Chaos Storm, and those champions are going to go boom. Victor as well, during the laning phase, once you upgrade your E, your Death Ray, it's very annoying to play against. The wave clear you have, the poke, especially once you start getting ability A's. And another thing that's great about Victor, you can go pretty much any of the mana mythics. So you can go Crown into those heavy dive and assassin compositions. You can go Everfrost, maybe against a similar composition, maybe it's very short range, or you can go Ludens because you're just super fed. You might even be the only AP on your team, so you want to hit as hard as possible. And you can even go Leandries into those tankier compositions. So Victor is the 3rd best mid laner. Beaten to the number 2 position though by Zed. So if you need a bit of attack damage in the mid lane for your team comp, honestly probably the best pick at the moment. With Transcendence and then Scorch, so a bit like Victor, you're abusing the new Scorch, it has made Zed's laning phase so deadly. A couple of WEQ combos with Scorch and with Electrocute, that enemy champion better call for some help from their jungler or their support, because they are going to die. And I should also mention here that Zed, the E buff to your energy cost for your E, it's been really nice for mid Zed, because this means you can actually use your E a bit more, whether it's to CS into ranged champions, against melee champions like Yasuo, like Sylas. You can actually just use your E more often and look to trade with them more, knowing you'll have that energy to do so. So Zed, because of the Scorch buffs, the buffs to Zed himself, and because there aren't really that many other mid laners who are really better than him, he is the number 2 mid laner for 12-17. But there is one mid laner, of course, if Zed's number 2, well, number 1 is Vex. And for Vex, ever since Riot buffed your Q's AP ratio and reduced its cooldown at level 9, so rank 5 points in your Q, to 4 seconds, Vex has just been killing it. And of course, Vex is someone, well, you can actually run Scorch, so you can abuse this, but you don't have to. You can run something like Inspiration, so with Biscuit Delivery. With Electrocute, you can choose to go Mana Flow Band and then Scorch, with something like Electrocute, so there are certainly options as far as your runes go. But unlike Victor, Vex is just one of those mid laners who loves going Luden's Tempest, because that's what the champion is really about. You are about burst damage and the magic penetration from Ludens. Pair this with Sorcerer's Shoes, you will be obliterating everyone. I also think Vex is really underrated just because she can close so much space quickly. So when your opponent is making mistakes, and obviously mistakes are going to happen more in lower elos, Vex can punish them super easily, especially if she has an aggressive attack damage jungler. The damage mix, the damage output, it is insane, and you will one-shot champions, even if it is a durability meta, so quickly. So Vex is the number 1 mid for another patch. Now heading to the bot lane here, well, the first AD carry we're going to talk about is actually one who's getting nerfed in 12-17. So for Sivir, who's the strongest AD carry honestly at the moment, she's picked and banned all the time in pro play, and in solo queue she's very prolific as well. So the nerfs are as follows: your attack damage growth, so each time you level up, you're getting 0.2 less AD. This is definitely going to affect your scaling, because this will add up to more attack damage lost in the late game. And also your W, how it scales off your total attack damage, it's scaling less, so by 5%. So both of these nerfs are targeted towards Sivir's mid to late game, which honestly is insane. If you pair Sivir with something like a Janna, Yuumi, Lulu, attack speed, Enchantress support, she's impossible to kill, and the amount of damage she can deal because she's alive for that long, it is incredible. So you might be like, well, how on earth can Sivir be on this list if she's getting nerfed? Well, the nerfs just aren't big enough to stop her from being incredibly broken. So she's the 3rd best AD carry, and honestly probably one of the best blind pick AD carries as well. But beating Sivir to number 2, maybe a champion you're kind of happy to play against Sivir, especially in 12-17 because of the nerfs, this is Twitch. And for Twitch in every single elo for another patch, he's doing extremely well. Because the supports at the moment who are good, like Yuumi, like Lulu, Twitch loves having them next to him, because he wants his attack speed buff, he wants to be protected, and when he comes out of his stealth with a Yuumi on top of him, well, someone on the enemy team is probably going to die. Just make sure, guys, you are playing the laning phase a little bit passive because that's really your weak point. And I'd also recommend probably not just blind picking Twitch. You ideally want to pick him when you know you can actually get to the mid to late game without being 0-10. So let's say you see a Draven on the enemy team, picking Twitch sounds really risky. If you see a Caitlyn, it still doesn't sound that great. You really want to pick him into free lanes like an Ezreal, maybe like a Sivir, like a Zeri. These champions who aren't going to be as dominant during the laning phase, that's a great time to pick Twitch. So he's number 2. Now the number 1 champion, I actually just mentioned him, this is Draven. And even though his Q got nerfed a few patches ago in terms of the base damage, it has not stopped Eclipse Essence Reaver Draven from carving up the bot lane. And I don't really think I need to elaborate on really that much here. We all know how OP this champion is. The amount of damage you deal, you work with so many supports as well. Your adoration stacks as soon as you cash those in. Such a snowbally champion. And because lots of the AD carry pool has been nerfed in recent times, Draven really just stands alone as the most dominant bot laner in the game. And that will continue to be the case in 12-17. Now heading into the support role, the 3 best supports, coming in at number 3 we have Zyra. And ever since Riot buffed Zyra, so in terms of her ease cast time, only being 0.15 seconds you're going to be locked out for, this makes the champion so much cleaner and smoother to play. It's actually really nice. And because of the new Scorch buff, when you pair this with Comet, your damage during the laning phase is even better than what it was before. And I know Zyra is like a really frustrating support to play against for a lot of people because it's very hard to dodge her stuff, right? Especially when Zyras are controlling the bottom brushes with sweepers and control wards. You never know when that grasping root is coming at you, and because she's locked out of that for less time now, she can easily gap close to land her ultimate into a Q, so Zyra is number 3. Now number 2 on the countdown is one of those supports who loves playing with a Twitch, maybe a Sivir, Draven as well, might be okay with, this being Lulu. And a bit like Draven, I don't really think I need to expand that much on why Lulu is number 2 or why Lulu is broken. If you think about the AD carries who are good like Twitch, like Sivir, Zeri's been picked a lot as well in pro play, and you're even seeing Lulu picked and banned in pro play because of the AD carries that are being picked. She's just an amazing all-around champion, great at peeling. Also, if you're good at Lulu, you can be very, very annoying during the laning phase in terms of harassing the enemy champions as long as you know how to use your E with your Q. So don't just think Lulu's just going to sit back and peel. Really, really good supports are going to turn her into an aggressor during the laning phase. Might depend on the matchup, but yes. So Lulu is number 2, but she's beaten to number 1 by the support who is still boasting like a 52-53% win rate. That's in like every single elo. I don't know how this is allowed, this being Janna. And despite like the 3 to 4 nerfs that came in a few patches ago to Janna, she's still boasting an incredibly high win rate, and that's really the only reason I need to put her as number 1. And it's not like she's picked in like 10 games. She's played in thousands of games. She's one of the most popular supports going around, and to have that high of a win rate, it really just goes to show how broken she is. So those were the 3 best champions, guys, for each role for 12-17. Let me know in the comment section any thoughts, any questions you might have, and of course, if you did enjoy the video, please remember to leave a like down below. And until our next Season 12 upload, this has been Peace.